In this video, I'm going to reveal how best to travel New Zealand by rental car in 2025. Where do you start and what do you need to know in advance? My top 10 travel planning tips will make it so easy for you. Plus, you get a free New Zealand travel planning sheet. My first key advice is not to rent a car from the airport after your arrival in New Zealand with a long-haul flight. You will be tired and you may need to get used to the English road system we drive on the left-hand side here in New Zealand. Plus, the traffic around airports can be heavy and confusing. You will be far better off to take an Uber or a shuttle bus into the city. Then go for a walk and stay active to get over the jet lag. Pick up the rental car the next day for a fresh start into your New Zealand holiday. This strategy saves you money and you have a far more pleasant experience. Now let's talk about your rental car selection. My suggestion is for you to consider a New Zealand owned rental car operator as opposed to a larger international brand. The New Zealand owned operators usually have better prices, good customer service and less additional charges, though their rental car fleet and standards are pretty much the same. I'll talk about my favorite rental car operators in a minute. On the other side, the smaller car operators have less depot locations around New Zealand and often don't have an airport counter. Instead, they will provide an airport transfer service from the terminal to the nearby depot. This will save you heaps, as airports charge high fees for the privilege to be able to pick up a car at the terminal directly. Later on in this video, I'll talk about costs and my favorite price comparison website. Before you even want to go into checking prices, here's one key piece of advice for your 2025 New Zealand trip. Plan your overall travel itinerary schedule first. Selecting the right rental car location is the key. It's a good idea to pick up and drop off at main hubs such as Auckland, Christchurch or Queenstown. The smaller the depot location, the less rental car options you have, and therefore the higher the price. Here's a practical sample. Pick up a rental car from Auckland for a few days traveling the North Island. Now, if you would drop off the car in Rotorua and fly to the South Island, you would need to use one of the larger rental car firms such as Thrifty or Europcar. Let's compare prices in this overview with discoverycars.com, my favorite car rental comparison website. Say you are looking for a compact automatic from Auckland City for April 2025 with return to Rotorua Airport for 5 days. The best price for the 5 days is 683 New Zealand dollars with Thrifty New Zealand. Now, if you drive back to Auckland Airport, it takes about 3 hours drive. Drop the car off here and take a flight to the South Island. This would cost you from around about 150 New Zealand dollars instead. Personally, I would not go for the lowest price, but you might want to do that. My recommendation would be to go with an operator such as Go Rentals. The price for a compact car would be about 485 New Zealand dollars, which is still a nice saving. In my job as a travel agent, I have been working with Go Rentals over the past 15 years. They have an excellent reputation and I find them reliable to deal with. I will talk about the price comparison website discovery.com in more detail in a minute. Before that, I want to drill down on the overall itinerary planning again. Sample itineraries. I cannot state enough on how important it is to plan out your overall itinerary first, before making any bookings. Here are some free travel planning samples for a 10 or 14 day North and South Island road trip with a domestic flight connection in between. You can download those links in the description box below. They are a great way to start with your overall holiday planning. My recommendation is to spend 1/3 of your time in the North Island and 2/3 in the South Island. This is generally a good ratio for the first New Zealand holiday. If you find this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button below to stay in touch for more helpful New Zealand travel videos to come. Now let's have a good look at the price comparison website. I like this one as you can get a great overview on availabilities and prices for a range of operators, from discount rental car operators with older vehicles to major brands. It's well laid out with quick overview on travel informations, policies and specials. On their selection page you get a range of search filters such as vehicle specs, location types, bond and payment policies. What I also find very helpful is that you can select individual operators. There are a number of rental car brands I like for their value for money, like 𝗟𝗏, Easy Rentals, Go Rentals and Thrifty. With these 4 options you can pretty much cover all locations in New Zealand. As you can see, there are plenty of rental car sizes for 1 to 2 travelers up to SUV and people mover vans for families. My key recommendation for family and group travelers is to consider how many pieces of luggage you have to ensure your van has enough space. Also book larger vehicles as early as possible as their fleet numbers are limited in New Zealand. Most of the rental car options here have a free cancellation policy. Please look into the details more when you do the reservation. I've done another video on rental car secrets which I highly recommend you watch for more details. See link in the description box. I also put a link to 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗏.com in the description box too. A quick word on electric vehicles or EVs or petrol-powered cars. Most rental cars are petrol fueled, but more operators are now offering hybrid cars as well. They are more fuel efficient and have a similar prices. Some operators such as Go Rentals offer pure EV cars such as the Teslas. Some travelers are still concerned with charging stations. I used the Tesla on the North Island a couple of years ago and I had a great experience. By now there are more charging stations available with charging apps such as charge.net.nz. Check in the description box below. Personally, I would consider renting an EV car anytime for traveling around New Zealand. Note, some rental cars are diesel fueled, mainly 4-wheel drives and SUVs. Be mindful there is no tax on diesel fuel when purchased at the pump station, but there is a road user charge which is calculated by kilometer driving instead. So be aware that rental car operators will charge this additional diesel tax at the end of your trip. Another word of advice, book your rental car as early as possible to get the best possible price, especially if you're traveling in the New Zealand summer season. There are limited fleets available. It's all based on supply and demand, so the best deals go first. Don't wait until you arrive in New Zealand. You will pay top dollars and there might be not even a car available at all. Travel distances and times. When using Google Maps traveling New Zealand, you need to be aware that Google times are often not accurate. New Zealand roads are often windy and hilly and you probably need to add about 10 to 15% time into your schedule. This is especially the case in the South Island where there are hardly any highways. Also, the speed limit in New Zealand is 100 km/h or 62 miles. Travelers often underestimate distances and rush through some of the most beautiful spots in the world. Try to allow plenty of time for stops, walks and photos. It's so worth it. Another key recommendation is to stay 2 or more nights at one location as much as possible and explore from this base. Less is more. I know it's very tempting to want to cover as many locations as possible, but you will miss so much along the way. Plus, you have much more packing and moving to do. Check out the sample itineraries in the description box below. They provide you with a great start for your holiday planning. Ferry or flight between the North and the South Island. For travelers with a limited time budget, say 2 weeks or less, I would not recommend using the ferry between the North and the South Island. Firstly, it adds more travel time on the road getting to Wellington or Picton. Secondly, it will cost you more fuel and additional for the ferry tickets. Thirdly, by using a domestic flight, you save yourself at least 2 days of holiday time you could spend in a national park or doing some other activities. Again, refer to the free itinerary samples in the description box below for more inspiration. So when is the best time for a road trip to New Zealand? This question I get asked often. We have 4 distinct seasons here in New Zealand. During the winter time from June to August, you can expect snow and icy road conditions, especially in the South Island. Spring is between September and November, and it can be a mixed weather bag. The best time for road trips is between December and May. Personally, I prefer the months of April and May, as the weather patterns seem to have moved a little backwards over the past 30 years. Check out my detailed video on renting a car in New Zealand up here, and my New Zealand road travel playlist up here. See you in the next video.